Hi everyone, welcome to Funnel TV, the travel tech channel. I'm back again, and today is Monday, is the third episode of Cloud No Frills. How are you, Brian?
I'm doing well, Enzo. Thank you for having me back.
Fantastic, man. How is it going in Miami?
Hey, the weather's always beautiful here. What do I have to complain about, right? And you are coming to
Uh,
visit me, right, Enzo?
really soon, man. Really soon. I love Miami, and I want to spend, I would say, 1 month with you there and make some good live from Miami. Why not?
1 month, huh? 1 month, you're just starting to get used to life down here. You need to spend at least 3 months.
Well, gotta talk to my wife for that.
Yeah,
She
exactly.
approved. It's fine.
Yeah.
Right, Brian. So we are at the third episode of Cloud No Frills, a series sponsored by Cinque Stelle Native Cloud PMS.
Mhm.
And but before to introduce the guest of today, would you like to give us a quick recap of what's shared during the first and second episode, and what is going to be the agenda of this episode today?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Enzo. So, everyone, in episode 1, we discussed legacy versus cloud. We were explaining some of the basics about it. What we also discussed was monolithic versus microservice architectures. So, what we learned are the differences of cloud versus legacy systems and what hoteliers need to know in making their decisions, especially coming up in 2020. We also learned the importance of having leaner systems to handle data exchange and why it's necessary to decrease our dependency on physical machines on property. In episode 2, we discussed open API adoption and cloud microservices. And we also discussed the juicy topic of marketplaces. That was an amazing discussion where we learned the fundamentals of why open APIs are really important and the need for all vendors to adopt to this method of thinking and openness when deploying their platform. This is an important way of thinking and openness as we go forward in 2020. And we also learned about, whether plug and play is achievable. We learned that it will eventually get there, but everyone must collaborate and work together to achieve this. And in today's episode 3, which will conclude our cloud series sponsored by Cinque Stelle PMS, we'll discuss how cloud can transform your organization specific to hotels, and what are the steps and best practices of migrating to the cloud.
Fantastic. A lot of a lot of contents today. So basically, the intention of this series, again, I shared this already in the previous session, is to provide more, understanding of what is the difference between cloud system approach versus legacy system adoption. I hope that hoteliers will get some good insight from this series. And at this point, what I will do is to introduce our guest. And let me open the camera. Hi, Marco.
Hi, Enzo.
Hi,
Hi,
James.
Brian.
Hello, Marco.
Hi, Maribel.
Hello.
Sorry. And hi, Eddie. How are you guys?
Fine, Enzo.
Fantastic. Fantastic.
Thank you.
Ryan, would you like to give a quick roundtable so they can introduce each other?
Sure, absolutely. So at the top right, we have Marco Mari, CEO of Cinque Stelle and also founder. We have James Bishop of SiteMinder, and we have Maribel Esparcia Pérez of European Sustainability Hospitality Club, and we've got Eddie Mimon with Hotel Direct Booster. So to start off, Marco, would you just do a quick intro on yourself again? I know this is the third time, but we'd love to hear your background. Yeah, please go ahead.
Hi, Brian. You already said all. I am Marco Mari, CTO and founder of Cinque Stelle. I would add that Cinque Stelle is a native cloud PMS, and we are based in Italy with almost 2,000 properties.
Thank you so much, Marco. James, would you like to give us a quick background on yourself and SiteMinder?
Absolutely. So thanks very much, firstly, for having me here. So I'm James Bishop. I'm the Senior Director of Global Partnerships or Demand Partnerships with SiteMinder. So that is basically looking at anything that's going to add and drive value for hotels that are plugged into the SiteMinder ecosystem. For those that don't know, so SiteMinder is a global guest acquisition platform. with, I guess our roots firmly in the channel management and distribution, but obviously with lots and lots of products around the whole guest acquisition from online.
Great. Thanks for that, James. And Maribel, would you give us a quick intro on yourself and European Sustainability Hospitality Club? I'm very interested to learn more about it.
Yeah, so first of all, I'm a professor at the university as well. So this is why I'm very much interested in learning these tools so I can educate in upcoming generations. So I am a professor in the University of Lleida here in Catalonia in Spain. And I am the founding partner of the European Sustainable Hospitality Club, which is a club that helps to transition to a more conscious leadership. And we, of course, rely on technology to achieve that, and how we do and have a more smarter industry and gather data in a way that we are more sustainable, not just for the ecosystem side or water treatment or waste management, but also about leadership and how we empower next generation leaders to make the right decisions.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Maribel. And Eddie, give us a bit of your background and what does Hotel Direct Booster do?
Sure. So I'm Eddie. I'm a former hotelier. I'm the CEO of Hotel Direct Booster. We help hotels get more direct bookings using our chat technology and our call center to help them convert hesitating visitors into buyers.
Great. Thank you. And Enzo, no introduction to you. You're the maestro. Producer, director.
No introduction this time. No introduction. I'm Enzo. Okay. I'm not drinking since the last 2 months, so I'm not using alcohol anymore.
Fantastic.
Right. So, guys, really exciting. We have a lot of people today. I think we have a lot of great content. So looking forward to start. Are you ready, guys?
We're ready. Thank you, Enzo.
Okay. Right. So let's go.
So easy.
Hello and welcome back. Good to have everybody back here. In all our episodes, since many of our viewers are hotels, we're going to try and keep the discussion about technology simple and easy to understand. So to lead us off, to start with the basics, again, I always pick on Marco. Again, today, our designated CTO will start us off with the first question, which is regarding legacy versus cloud. The big question: is this discussion already obsolete? Should hotels in 2020 only be looking at moving to the clouds? What are your thoughts on this, Marco?
Thank you for the question. The short answer is yes. Okay, but I want to give you a longer answer. Okay, I prepared just some slide. The first one is a photo from our commercial launch. Was October 2013. It's already 6 years. And okay, please don't look at the cheap plastic grass and don't look at the even cheaper furniture. Okay, but what I want to say is that at the very beginning, when an interested properties approached us, the first half hour of discussion was about cloud benefits, but basic. So reassuring the hotelier about where is the data, the reliability of a DSL connection, all these kind of things. Okay, but it was 6 years ago. Then, come on, it's much cheaper and easiest to have a backup connection than a backup server. Okay. By the way, the smartphone is already a good backup connection. So we are 6 years after, and okay, there is still noise about cloud. And in effect, we wanted to do this series to bring more clarity. So from one side, there is noise. From the other, from a tech perspective, there can't be discussion. we already saw the cloud advantages. I will recap very fast here. So more simple, hardware free, always on. To facilitate the online selling, connected with the world, updated, secure, very easy and fast to set up, scalable, and cheap, much cheaper regards the classical cost of technology. Okay, so I can't agree more that legacy versus cloud can be an open discussion. So every product, every software has a life cycle. It's a standard life cycle. So legacy software is in an irreversible decline. So it's life, okay? And I want to show you some other thing, more concrete to hotel. Okay, we already saw the advantages of cloud, but let's go concrete. This is a photo of a friend. It's an hotelier. He manages 4 leisure hotels in Rimini. Okay, and look, he's changing his prices. We were at dinner, and simply with his smartphone, he was changing pricing. And think about the optimization if in his online selling. If dining before a pizza, he is simply changing prices. Okay, so removed is the hidden cost, and we have a system that is always on. Moreover, cloud disrupted the industry and changing the business model of the companies, our business model. Cloud opened the gates to a generation of innovative applications. So by all means, we are connected with the world. At the moment, we got more than 200 live connections. Okay, and last but not least, I already spoke about security. So in particular, I focused on GDPR and on PCI. So cloud systems are far more secure than on-premise system. But another side of the security is electronic invoicing. You should know that many countries are issuing fiscal laws and are moving to electronic invoicing. Italy first, but almost all European countries, and also, for instance, Mexico. Mexico is starting this year with electronic invoicing. So the problem is that the system, in our case, the PMS, that issues a fiscal document must ensure that every document is not deletable and not editable. And this assurance must be certified. So try to imagine how it's difficult to give such a certification with an on-premise installation, and how is easier to do the same thing in the cloud. Okay, so for me, okay, as I said, the answer is yes. It's no more a match between cloud and native.
Great. Thank you for this, Marco. Let's start off the discussion. I'll start off with Eddie, because I think, Eddie, you probably have some thoughts to weigh in on what Marco just said. What are your thoughts about where cloud is heading and what Marco just said?
I actually have no idea where the cloud is going. But what I know and what I remember is that when I was back in the hotels, I used to work for hotels that had a legacy system and others that had a cloud PMS. In legacy hotels, legacy PMS properties, we had one guy managing that on a full-time basis. It was large hotels still. We had to have one guy to only do that, manage that, which was not the case at all for the other property on the cloud. But I heard, that's a question actually, because I have no idea which is the best, legacy or cloud. But I heard that there are many hackers going into the hotel industry, trying to steal data and credit card database from PMSs that seems to be easy to steal. Is that from legacy or cloud PMS, you think?
Yeah, interesting, thoughts about the hackers and basically security, what Marco was talking about. Marco, would you mind addressing some of the security benefits, cloud versus legacy?
Yeah. Speaking about credit cards, is much more secure cloud because we don't even have credit card data. So the feed of credit card data arrive from OTAs, for instance, or for booking engine, arrives in a secured bankery server that removes the credit card data and forwards us a token. So a sequence of characters representing this card, but this token can be used. So it's 100% secure. The hotelier is not in touch with the credit card data. The PMS is not in touch with credit card data. On the opposite, if you got the data, even in your server, in your on-premise server, and your server you think it's secure, you're not really secure, because it's so easy today for an hacker to introduce himself in a local network that you can't think to be secure. Really, it's only a matter of opening the wrong email or installing the wrong software on your system. So too much risk.
Right. James, I'd like you to weigh in here because, working for SiteMinder, such a big global company that's probably got, who knows, maybe hundreds of property management system connections. We don't know what the mix is between clouds versus legacy, but it'd be interesting to get your perspective, being that SiteMinder is a cloud system. How do you feel like the work balances between legacy systems versus cloud systems? Which is easier?
Yeah.
What are the pros and cons?
So that's interesting. So to answer your first question there, we have about 300 different PMSs integrated to SiteMinder today. We see more and more of those, applications to be connected. But any new platform coming out today is cloud-based. Like no one's sitting down thinking we've got to create this awesome legacy client service system and integrate it to SiteMinder. So everything coming out in new markets or new PMSs in the market that we're connecting to today is cloud-based. And you'll find that actually even some of the legacy platforms are either migrating to cloud or creating cloud services for all of their integrations because it's just so much easier to use. So even if their whole platform doesn't go to cloud, they'll have a middleware cloud system to manage their integrations. When it comes to actually implementing with a hotel, if we're integrating to something like Cinque Stelle, for example, who are a great partner of ours also, we can have that integration up and running in a matter of hours. Whereas, with legacy systems, the ongoing cost each time you want to integrate to a new system, integrate to a new platform, your PMS provider might have to send someone out to site. They might have to configure it on your server. They might have to give you 2 days training with it, and a $6,000 bill or a $10,000 bill, however much it costs them in that example. So migrating to cloud, although, from a hotelier's perspective, and many years ago I worked in hotels, and that was before really cloud was on the market. So I was working with legacy systems, and that's the experience that I've had. But from a hotelier's perspective, if they have the opportunity to switch to cloud, then it really does open up their horizons to endless possibilities going forward, because the platforms coming out these days that are supporting hotels, things like direct boost from Eddie, or any of the applications that you see, for example, in the SiteMinder hotel marketplace, these are all cloud platforms which are integrating to other cloud platforms and enabling hoteliers to find better ways of increasing their revenue. finding new guests. And it's not going to be possible forever on a legacy platform.
Right. There's something I want to touch on that you said, James, which is really interesting. It sounds like speed to market and the ability to satisfy customers, meaning hoteliers, rather quickly, rather than them waiting for months for connectivity to happen between the application that they want to work with and their property management system. This could directly or indirectly affect the service, the revenue of a hotel. Maribel, let's talk a little bit about this. You know, you've worked with hotels, you're familiar. How important is this with cloud from a perspective of customer service, from the hotel's perspective, in speed to market?
So that was one thing that when I was investigating more about the cloud, as he was saying, James was saying, I just work with legacy all my experience, like all the years I've been working in hotels, from receptionist to front of house supervisor to rooms controller. I was always working with PMS such Opera, you know, and it's a pain. It's a pain because creating rates is a very old way of working, and especially when the system is down, that it happens. You have a lot of interruptions, especially during the night audits. It's a pain because you just work with paper. You work with paper with reports, and maybe you can imagine that in some markets, but there are others that are still working in that old way, and it's a pain because the service is not efficient. You don't know which rooms are ready. You don't have the last features that the guest is expecting for that specific room, VIP status, special treatment, allergies for F&B. There are I could be talking here like maybe another session about that, but for me, cloud, I believe is, I am not an expert in the technology, but I understand that this is good for pattern recognition, for consumer behavior. Having, for instance, now that we have a lot of reservations made through the mobile phone, having them in the system without being worried that we will maybe have an overbooking situation and we have to book out. So I think it presents a lot of opportunities for hoteliers. But I also hesitate in a way, as the other colleague said. I hesitate because I don't fully understand. And I believe if we have less technical but more strategic approach to it, more hoteliers will shift. But definitely, I can see it's an advantage for operations because it gives its efficiency. At the end of the day, it's efficiency, so you can focus more, to your question, to the customer all the time.
Thank you for that, Maribel. You know, I want to touch on, we touched a little bit on security around credit cards, PCI compliance. Marco, weigh in a little bit on, since everybody who's on the call today, except for myself, is in Europe, we're all taking, you know, we all know about GDPR. And I would like to understand, Marco, where does GDPR play in? Is there any differences if you're cloud or legacy when it comes to GDPR?
Yes, the difference is relevant. I mean, first, you should guarantee that your data again is secure. So you must not have any data leakage. So if you have a security problem in your local network, it's a very big problem for a GDPR perspective. While if your data is in the cloud, is secure in the cloud, all this problem related to GDPR simply does not exist. Then we should also say that a cloud software is much more agile to be developed. So, for instance, when there was the first notice about GDPR, in a matter of weeks, we developed the modules to manage the GDPR. For instance, there is something automated that every night checks if the privacy authorization of each single customer expired. So, for instance, a customer give you the authorization to be contacted for marketing reasons for 1 year after is checkout. So with a cloud agile solution is much easier to implement an automated procedure that every night removes the privacy authorization after a year from the checkout. And that's really a matter of days or weeks of development, no more. And once you develop it, you can release it to all your customers. So you understand how it's much, much easier.
Right. With that said, and this I'll go to Eddie because you don't know where it's all going, but everyone is weighing in. With what you've just learned here in this segment, what are some of your thoughts about cloud versus legacy now that we've been weighing in?
Actually, I have two things in mind. The thing is, when you have a legacy system, you don't really care about the company that developed that, right? Like, it can be a small company, and if it go bankrupt, you still have the system to operate your hotel. But if you have a cloud PMS and one day, I don't know, they don't have enough money and they just burn, doesn't exist anymore, you don't have any more PMS because you are in the cloud. Am I right? Should that be a risk for hoteliers to go and jump into the cloud industry, like a cloud PMS? So which would mean, like, if I want to have my hotel on the cloud PMS, I should only work with the big guys. Should I?
Very interesting. Marco, weigh in here a little bit because that's a very interesting question.
Good point. It's one of the reasons a couple of years ago we started to say we are no more a startup but a scale up. It's the very reason for which we started to say this, because it's a good question. I mean, an hotelier can ask, okay, but you have how many hotels with you? Only 100. What's the guarantee that in a couple of years you don't stop to operate? Because from one side, the data are always available, because I hope every cloud PMS has got features to export data in an easy way. So the data does not die together with the PMS. But nonetheless, it would not be good to be informed one day from your PMS that in 2 weeks, a month, it will be over. Okay,
Yeah,
so
I think
it's a very good point. If you're going cloud, try to choose a good partner and a reliable partner. So beware of small startups. That's sure.
Yeah. James?
I agree that there's risks either way on both sides. If you look and said, okay, look, if I have a legacy system, at least I own the software. To the same extent, you won't have any support on that software if that legacy provider is no longer in place, and there certainly won't be any upgrades. So, if something like PDS2 comes down the line, or another example of GDPR, you're still then forced into a corner where you need to find a solution from someone else, or if you have a solution. I agree with what Marco says. I think you have to have an element of risk when you switch to any provider. It's just weighing up the balance to say, okay, I don't think the balance should be, or do I go with a legacy versus do I go with a cloud? I think the balance is, look, what is the best cloud provider for the situation that I'm in today?
Right. Interesting, James. And I want to bring up a point here, because it seems when we speak about cloud from a pricing perspective, there's always this discussion about how it's cheaper on the cloud versus in legacy. Now that we're talking about the risks involved if a cloud PMS goes bankrupt versus a legacy system being bankrupt and maybe still having the ability to operate, is there a correlation between, and I say this from the cloud perspective, between, like, say, hoteliers who are looking in 2020 to migrate, and they're looking at whether it's reputable companies or companies that are out there that are building a name for themselves, should hoteliers be concerned about pricing that is very cheap. You know, one guy says it's $5 or €5 per room per month. The next guy says it's €3 per room per month, and so on, and it keeps coming down. What does that mean for security in terms of like the pricing? Should that give me a better peace of mind?
I think it's
James?
important to do your own due diligence in terms of, you know, what is the value you get for your investment. The big switch between, if you like, moving from legacy to cloud is that you don't have that, you shouldn't have that larger upfront capital expense, which is, you know, 2-3 weeks of on-site training, the hardware piece, the software licensing, which is really the get me started, like 50-60 grand that you're going to invest up front, and then the ongoing support fees. So, you know, you're kind of moving from a capex purchase to an opex purchase. So you're able to look much better at return on investment to say, well, okay, if it's $5 per room or $3 per room, you know, how can I prove a return on investment on per month on this? And it's a lot easier to break it down on that monthly cost rather than when you're looking at capex. In terms of, yes, there's always going to be a cheaper provider out there, but you know, the kind of questions that are coming out today around the level of security, and the future developments and the level of integration that a cloud solution has are exactly the sort of questions that I would expect to be asked when someone's looking to migrate into a cloud platform. And if you can tick all those boxes and get, you know, great peer reviews, like I would never buy a platform for a hotel without having spoken to another hotel that's using it. So,
right.
You know, if you can get that sort of peer recommendation alongside it, then, you know, you're in a strong place. Having said that, there's, you know, the way that consumers use technology today, right? What our expectation as a consumer, if you forget about hoteliers, is that you can go online and say, okay, I want to use that platform, whether it's Spotify, whether it's Netflix or something else, and you're going to be walked through, you're going to know how to use this product within about half an hour, right? And that, whilst, you know, people say that's impossible in the PMS land, we can go a long way towards that self-onboarding and that self-learning process so the hoteliers can get themselves up and running. So, you know, if all goes to pot with one provider, realistically, there's providers out there that will have you back up and running on their platform within 24 hours. Now, that's not necessarily any sort of comfort for someone who's in that scenario, but that is the way that, you know, that is the way that the technology is going. And certainly with cloud, it's enabling people to pick up and to vote with their feet on a particular provider if they are not getting the service that they're expecting. And, you know, that is actually one of the benefits that cloud brings to any industry, is that it keeps us as software providers, it keeps us honest, right? We have to live up to our expectations because it's very easy for our customers to vote with their feet.
Yes. Maribel, would you like to weigh in on what James just said?
No, I do agree completely with what he's saying. I would also mention who is making the decision, right? And if it's a small property or international chain as well, but who is behind, who is the investor or asset managers? There's a lot behind there. So, and I would also say there is a little bit of generational gap to understand, because maybe for us it's easy to understand, but for other generations that are making decisions in the investor side or VCs, etc., it's difficult to find this transition. Under my experience with other strategies that we want to implement that maybe are easier to understand, that of course this makes sense to do it, it's the right timing to do it, but one of their fears that I was about to say later on, but one of their fears is, by the time I have this implemented, is this already outdated? And what is the ROI, of course, of all of this? And even though maybe it's cheaper because you pay as you go, you pay per month, as you can pay as for Spotify or any other thing, but they are still in that position of, as Eddie was saying, is this good for me or not? And very much depends on where they're coming from and who is making the decision, the last decision, because maybe the hotelier is happy to do it, but it's not in his or her hands. So yeah.
Great. Thank you, Maribel. So we're sorry, Marco, would you like to say something?
Brian, yes. One last word about cost and cheap or not cheap software. So cloud is obviously cheaper than on-premise for very good reasons that we already explained. Then when you got more cloud products and one is much more cheaper, my suggestion is to understand why. I mean, I am transparent with our costs. Our costs are two: development and support. So if the product is by way too cheap, you can expect that your PMS won't evolve, so no development, or the support will not be so good, because the support cost is quite high and it doesn't scale so well. I mean, if you need 10 people to support 1,000 hotel, with 2,000 hotel, maybe you need 20 people.
Yeah.
So it's a cost. So if you find something too cheap, maybe you should think about why this is so cheap.
You should question it, definitely. So everyone, we're going to take a short break and we're going to come back into our second segment, which we're going to talk about migrating to the cloud. So we've already started to shift some of our discussions around the decisions and maybe some of the best practices by which hoteliers need to look at as we go into 2020 and making their decisions. So when we get back, we're going to speak a little bit more in depth about what they should be looking at and what they should be asking in terms of migrating to the cloud. Enzo, would you like to take us to break?
If you want to free your time and boost your productivity, ask for your free demo now. It's time to work well and live better.
Great, and welcome back. So this is our second half. We're going to be talking about migrating to the cloud. I'm going to start off with Maribel because she has some slides she'd like to share with us. And then we will get deeper into the discussion on what are the questions hoteliers need to ask going into 2020 in making decisions between legacy versus cloud. Maribel?
Yes, so basically, as I said, I'm more from the operational perspective and also walking through next generations that will lead hotels in few years, and of course understanding why they should make this decision. So I just wanted to say most of the things I believe we've said or we've touched on, maybe not today, but the previous series, but mainly some of the main points I would take into consideration thinking about what technologies we need for 2020 is definitely taking into consideration that consumer behavior is changing, and hoteliers have no option but adapt to it, and we have to do it. And sometimes we resist to change, as Scott from La Roche said the other day. Sometimes we resist to change, but we need to understand that this is good for the operations and for the strategy of hotels. To prevent overbooking, as I said before, it can help as well. And with prices, with rates, like more from the operational side, will take a lot of workload from employees. And I believe this is great because we can focus on the end consumer with the guest. And from your perspective, maybe from like PMS such 5 Stelle, I would suggest maybe having more educational programs where we can walk through hoteliers on what are the benefits, of course, for us, not just so technical, but more about, yes, this is costing us maybe less than other PMS, but definitely will have an impact because we will be more efficient, and because of course we can reduce human errors, and also data integration as we come to smart cities and we come to smart destinations. I believe if we have this cloud, will allow having this connectivity, not just within the hotel, but also with external factors that have an impact in daily operations. And I believe that's key moving forward. Definitely, as I said before, who makes the last decision, right? So for SMEs or SMBs versus international companies, I guess that SMEs could have an advantage because maybe they can take the phone and they say, okay, let's go, let's implement it. Even though we are working with a new, as you were saying, you can have some fear of working with a new startup, but it could help because if it's an SME, you can trust some other SME. It could be a small startup, and start from there, build a relationship, and have an advantage to compare it to big international chains that can buy this data from outside businesses such as DR, right? And of course, improve guest experience and support consumer patterns. As I said before, I believe that as an hotelier and of course as an investor, I believe that this is the first thing we have to do: take care of the guests. And from challenges, under my perspective, through that transition period, of course, if the investor concerns, as I said, what is the ROI? Is this going to be outdated by the time it's implemented? This is currently questions that are being asked. Is this really meaningful for us or not? And it's hard to be accepted. Again, as Scott said the other day, the implementation internally is hard. And you have a shift, and also you have executive and frontline employees that you need to take care of this transition. It's just more a mindset game because for instance, for PMS that we have today, like Opera, we need anyways hours of training, we need them. So it's just a mindset shift of leaving the old and being more open and having more trust. So definitely being able to have more trust in these new startups and having this open mind about sharing data for the better. So I don't want to talk a lot more. Just I will give you this presentation to review if someone wants to access it. But just what we need for this transition is mainly training. I would expect to have more training for those of us that are not that understanding of what cloud is for the technical aspects of it, and it's explaining that this smartness is going to help also for improving once it's implemented, for improving reputation and being more connected to a destination itself, not just the inside operations and strategy, but also what's happening outside the hotel. And I just left here one very nice article I found out for hoteliers that want to find more information about it, that is explaining how it works and how it interacts with the whole data management, not just within internal factors, what I said, with external factors, the guest behavior, consumer behavior, market trends, challenges for the market challenges, etc. So I just leave it with you, and you can have access to it later on, maybe.
Great, Maribel. Thank you for that wonderful.
I can come back here.
Yeah, wonderful presentation. Thank you. It's interesting. While you were going through the presentation, something came to my mind. I think it's implied, but I'd like to talk about it just a little bit because I think it's an important fact. I think we could all make relative assumptions that most of the hotels that are out there today don't have in-house IT departments, which means that the revenue manager or the front office manager or a combination of both with the general manager, based on knowledge, based on a mix of emotions, they get into these presentations of various companies out there, whether legacy or cloud, and try to make decisions based on presentations. Would you say that it's important, at least for a 2020 New Year resolution for anyone looking to move to the cloud, that they should think about putting an RFP together to ask the right questions? Just again, you imply these questions to ask on your presentation, but what are your thoughts about that? Marco, I'll start off with you.
Yeah, sure. I would say that, again, my suggestion for the ones who want to migrate is, take a look of the websites of the single solutions. In general, it's quite easy to understand from the beginning what's the target property of each PMS. So there are PMSs more useful for very small properties. There are PMSs for independent hotels, but real hotels, so 50, 80, 100 rooms. And there are products more useful for chains. So first, you should try to understand if the product is in your target. Then ask some questions. Again, features, connections, above all connections, the type of support, in which language is the support, in which hours, and then prepare a short list and definitely have a demo. In some case, the demo is already there. In some case, you must ask it. But again, my suggestion is if you have a short list, try to have a demo with a sale, and maybe if you got tech questions, ask the sale to forward the questions to the tech colleagues. But have a demo with someone that can explain you how the system works, because often if you do a demo by yourself, yes, you can evaluate, but sometimes it's difficult to say, okay, in my old system, I created a bill with this button, and now I can create the bill, or I have to split a bill, or I had a situation in which two colleagues are sleeping in the same room, and they have to split the bill between two people. It's easy, it's not easy. I got meeting rooms. Can I do a reservation of only a meeting room without the physical room? So there are many questions. It's so important, the choice you are doing in switching a PMS. Then, in my opinion, the hotelier should take his time and have a guided demo with all the time he needs. So not only self-service and not a 20 minutes demo.
Right. James, weigh in here a little bit, because you work with thousands of hotels of all different sizes. Does one size fit all? Does customizing the approach with hotels really important?
Yeah, exactly. And Marco's gone over that really well. But no, it's very rarely. I don't think it is ever going to be one size fits all. I think one of the most important things that a hotelier can do when it comes to changing their tech stack is two things. The first thing is to be open-minded to the change themselves. So what I mean by that is so often you will come across someone who says they want to change their PMS, but they don't want to change the way they work with their PMS. So they're looking for a PMS that does everything that their last PMS does, right, in exactly the same way, but it's just cloud. It's on the cloud and it looks prettier, right? And realistically, you're going to be looking for a long time, right? And it might never come along, right? That's a dream. So you have to be really open-minded to how that PMS works and ask them questions about. You can question, hey, why would you do it that way around? But be open-minded to it.
But this is a very important thing. Sorry, James, because of course there are a lot of process based on the PMS, the checklist, process, like most of the thing, contingency reports, night audit, blah blah blah. So this is a big shift, as you said. It's a big shift.
It's a big thing. And when you actually make that change, and then look, if you talk about like a 10, 15 bedroom hotel, it's 2 or 3 people who have to be involved. When you go to 100, 150 bedrooms, when you've got multiple integrations that you have to align with different partners, and you've got housekeeping involved, you've got reservations, you've got revenue, you've got marketing, everybody has got their fingers in this pie. It's really important that the key stakeholders, they're all bought into the solution. That the decision isn't made by one person and put onto a team, but that they all have that input during the decision-making process. And they're all aligned on that product that you go forward with. The second piece that I would say is to understand and ensure that you have the right connectivity, not just for today, but for what you want in 6 months, in 12 months, in 18 months, which is, shameless plug, but well, we launched the hotel app store recently, and it enables 100 different applications to plug into 30 different PMSs, Cinque Stelle being one of them, of course, but also into our own channel manager. And some of the feedback that I get from existing hotels that have started using it is they're like, this is great because I'm seeing applications here that I don't want to use today, but I'm fairly sure I'm going to have a need for them in 6 months, in 12 months. And you're providing me, or in the case of Cinque Stelle or others who are integrated, that PMS is providing me already with that route. And it's a peace of mind thing that they know that the technology choice they've made today is actually going to serve them further into the future and give them a much broader supply of technology.
Great. Eddie, I'd like to bring you into the conversation here to weigh in what Maribel and James have been saying, and Marco. What are your thoughts so far? Your speaker is off. Your microphone.
Sorry, my mistake. What I remember is I used to switch from a very famous PMS to a new version of them, which was on a legacy system, actually. And we had to work, I think, for 6 months to do the switch from an older version to a new version because it was a legacy system. There had a lot of updates, a lot of things were not working. And we know in technology, there are a lot of things to fix all the time. And with legacy system, it's quite difficult to do it on a regular basis. And as you said, Maribel, there are a lot of process when you need to switch from one PMS to another one. It can be from legacy to cloud or from one cloud to another cloud. And all of the head of departments should be implicated in this process. And I think PMSs should help doing that, like giving the great tips, great advices on how housekeeping is using Cinque Stelle to do their job on a daily basis, just to have a better and clearer picture of how am I going to operate my hotel in the future, because PMS is really central, and we know that if we don't use it right, we can collapse. The operation cannot work, and after all, the traveler is just asking for a smooth experience, a smooth check-in, a smooth checkout. He wants to sleep in a bed. He wants to have smiling people and not people behind their desks, just trying to figure out how do I do a checkout? How should I send an invoice? But I have, Brian, if you allow me, I have a question to Marco that I shouldn't be asking.
No. Feel free.
Feel free.
Please, go ahead.
I don't know how it works in other countries, but I know in France, and I won't say where, but mostly everywhere in France, on legacy system, we were able to, how to say that nicely, edit invoices. Or get invoices.
Edit invoices,
kind of a huge amount of, room revenue. So are we able to do that in the cloud area, or is this something from the past?
You ask me a $1 million question.
I know.
I mean, I should not say that, but at the very beginning, one of the reasons people asked cloud was that cloud was more secure also for editing invoices. Okay, let's call it editing. But in France, it's 1 year that you got the NF 925 law, and if every software, every system, every cash system in France must be certified. So as today is absolutely no more possible. But it's not a matter of a cloud or on-premise. It's a matter of law. So if you want to issue a document, you must have the certification. And the certification is much easier to have it in the cloud. I mean, imagine to certify an on-premise system saying that your database was never touched by anyone, nor even a technician. It's almost impossible.
Yeah.
While in the cloud, there are electronic signage, blockchain. There are technologies to ensure that a document remains the same and is not edited or touched. But it's because the law. If you remove the law, yes, in the cloud it's possible to edit easily a document, but it's no more possible for the certification we did.
Yes. Did that answer your question, Eddie?
I guess. I think.
Or just made more questions. Go ahead.
No, I really thank you, Marco, for the heads up about it. I think
You're welcome.
it used to be like a past way of doing things, and maybe some other people are still doing it. But from what I understood today, because I didn't had any opinion before jumping into this stream, is basically if you are on a legacy system, you can have something that is somehow reliable because you buy something that you can have all the time forever. But it's like a website. We know that we need to change our website every 2 or 3 years because it's going to be outdated, and this is what we can get, I think, from legacy system. But if you think about cloud system, it can evolve every day, and we see today they're like kind of two kind of hotels: the old-fashioned ones and the one trying to catch with the trends and try to evolve with what travelers are expecting to have and what they want. And if we look, and I think, James, you said it before, if we look at all the technology that we use on a daily basis, it's only cloud to make it, I don't know, cheaper, quicker, whatever stuff, but it's cloud. And from a non-technology guy, if we see that all industries are moving into the cloud, they might have some good reason somehow.
Yeah. Marco, please go ahead.
Yes, in my opinion, innovation is always there. So you have innovation on a daily basis. So every day there is something new. Okay, and that's clear. The disruption is a daily disruption. Every day I find something new applications, new ideas, and so on. But an important thing, in my opinion, is that while is everyday based innovation, is not continuous. So there are smaller and bigger steps, and cloud was one of the bigger steps in last 10 years. So it's something that is here to stay for many years. So you can jump to cloud without the fear to think maybe in a couple of years there will be something new that makes the cloud outdated. So think about this. It's not continuous. So innovation is every day, but not continuous. So with cloud, there was a huge step. And now we are making little steps in order to improve cloud. There are some news also in cloud, but I don't want to go too deep in technology. But the great discontinuity has already been done with the introduction of cloud.
Yes. James, would you like to give us some of your final thoughts as we start to wrap up?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll just say again, thanks for having me here for the last hour. I think it's been a really valuable discussion. I think hopefully for those who are tuned in and really trying to find their way through the legacy versus cloud path and who are in that position today, I think it's valuable to all hoteliers from 3 rooms to 300 to 3,000. That ultimately the new technology that's coming out today and tomorrow is not going to be is going to be in the cloud. It's not going to be a legacy system, but not to be scared of it, but to realize that as per the consumer behavior, as is technology for hotels, it's becoming easier to use. It's becoming easier to implement. It's becoming a lot more user centric. And I think that, we need to be stripping away the complexity of the systems that we've been supporting in hotels over the last 15, 20 years, and support them better with connectivity to different partners so that people are getting what they need out of their core PMS system and are able to plug in what they want to add on, but not buying what they don't need. And I think that's one of the core benefits that we're seeing moving to the cloud.
Great. Thank you, James. And as we sort of wrap up this, final episode about cloud versus legacy, Maribel, could you quickly just weigh in some of your thoughts and things that we've learned on this call today?
I would definitely take this opportunity for hoteliers to kind of even update their currently operations and processes and take it as a strategic point and disruptive, as Marco said, take it this disruptive moment to kind of improve and innovate internally, and maybe you can eliminate many processes that you have got and implement new procedures that you didn't know, and take it as an innovation process, and take it with within the culture internally, to have the buy-in from everyone, not just one person, as James said, and I would suggest to do it. Why not? And of course, I know many won't, but if it's already there, it's going to be yes or yes for hoteliers. So I would take it as an innovation process and having this cultural internal change as well.
Great. Thank you, Maribel. And Eddie, I know you were last to come in, and there are some thoughts whether stay legacy or go to cloud. I'd like to get your thoughts coming out of today's discussion and what you think about where cloud is heading, if any thoughts.
Definitely cloud, to be honest.
Okay. Fantastic.
We got brainwashed already.
Yeah. Exactly. No, definitely. And Marco, do you want to give your final thoughts quickly, and we'll wrap?
My final thoughts are more on thanking all the ones who made this possible. So thank you to Enzo, to Simone, and to all the guests of this series. A really amazing discussion. I don't want to add nothing on the cloud side because I think we already did a good job.
Thank you so much, Marco. And Enzo, finally back to you.
We have to turn this cloud in a chicken. Where's the chicken?
Yeah, where's
Marco,
the chicken?
coming
Where's
from?
the chicken, Marco? There we got the chicken. Come on.
Here we are.
The chicken mascot. The chicken.
It's a joke because we decided to have as logo of this series a chicken-shaped cloud or a cloud-shaped chicken. Decide was the best definition because we want to say, okay, no frills, to communicate something concrete about the cloud, and so we choose something that everyone can know as a chicken. Okay, that's our mascot. His name is Cloud.
Cloud. Well, I have to say, Marco, for all the hoteliers that are looking and watching out there, do not be chicken in moving to the clouds. Okay, I'd sum it up that way. Enzo, thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Please go ahead.
I have only few highlights from today's discussion. One was related to the question coming from Eddie regarding the trust. What is going on if my company is going bankrupt and is a legacy or cloud? So, of course, there is a good step before to take a decision from the hotel's point of view. So my suggestion really is to choose the right partner, the right provider. Can't say who is the right one, but of course, experience, background, portfolio, these kind of things are making the difference sometimes between a provider to another one. Another point which came on top of my mind was related to the price. Okay, so how to understand if a product is too cheap or not? Well, of course, you have to put the product you want to choose on the table and try to figure out which are the difference between each other. But of course, taking in consideration that, as Marco said, there are two main aspects company have to take in consideration. One is the cost of implementation, development, innovation, and the other one is the support. So if you have 3, 4, 5 company you are choosing, and you notice that some of them are too cheap, well, this is the first thoughts you have to consider. Are those companies able to innovate continuously? Are those companies able to bring me innovation and help my hotel to increase and grow, in the next coming years? And especially, there is a big issue always in the support aspect. So it is important again here to have always the right people, the right language, the right communication. So take this in consideration. And the last point, so I didn't know, but we know now that you can edit in voice on cloud, right? So
Yeah.
You should
have
not.
this
The
new.
secret is out. The secret is out.
I don't want to know any more about that.
Yeah.
But we know that, So right. So that's it, guys. So easy, fast. That's something we have already discussed enough. So everybody are saying the same at the end. So it's easy to use, to implement, to adapt. So really, I don't see really any more big, point to explain about the difference of adopting, cloud versus legacy. I hope that hotels got a good feedback, had good contents to from which taking, some inspiration. Thank you all, guys. Really.
Thank you all very much. Yes, thank you.
And today was a really very nice conversation. To be honest,
you.
we have first of all a nice woman, Maribel, and in the previous 2 episodes, only men, too much testosterone. Eddie from Pérez, thank you very much. Thank you, man. James from London, thank you so much, man. I know you've been running like a crazy in the last few weeks, from US to Australia to Europe. So thanks to join us. Thanks, Marco from Parma.
Thank you, Enzo. Bye.
And thank you really to your team and the entire staff that support you to plan this series. And what should I say, Brian? You've been great. It was the first time you've been doing live stream moderation. You did really a great job. Thank you, man. Really.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me, Enzo.
All right,
Thank
man.
you.
So really
Appreciate
cool.
it. Yes.
Right, guys. So that's the end. Keep watching Funnel TV. We have a new series coming soon. Actually, tomorrow we start a new one, Master, and then we have another one, Woman in Hospitality and Travel Tech, Thursday, and then we come back again Friday with Simone on digital. So keep watching Funnel TV, guys. I hope that you enjoy and that you like what we're sharing every day. And feel free to share your comments, contact me, and say anything you like. Right? Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Enzo.
Thank
Bye,
you,
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Take care.
This is Jack, a happy hotelier. He's enjoying some free time near his hotel. He's not on holiday, but he can still find time for his passion. Pretty cool, isn't it? I bet you're wondering, how the hell can he afford it? Simple. He manages his hotel with 5 Stelle, the native cloud PMS which frees your time and increases your potential.